went from reading 5 books in 2020 to 11 books in 2021 to 51 books in 2022. Like many people, I read a ton when I was young, and then my reading fell off quite a bit when I started studying literature in undergrad. So you would think that I got back into reading because I got less busy, but in 2022 I was a graduate student and I was working 2 part-time jobs, so that was definitely not it. And I do want to share that the #1 main difference that I felt was that I started having fun again. And welcome to my channel. It's my first video. I'm Nick. I'm an avid reader. I'm a writer. I'm also a therapist in the state of California getting hours towards licensure, and this channel is going to be all about the intersections between media, books, reading, writing, mental health, joy, hobbies, all of that good stuff. If you want to stick around today, I'm going to give you 6 tips to find some fun in reading for 2023 and beyond. So if you're interested in doing that, if you've set a resolution to read more, if you want to get back into reading, if you've just been feeling like you're kind of in a slump lately, or if you're just dying to know what like number 4 is or something, I guess you could skip to it, but stick around anyway because I think they're gonna be pretty good. My first recommendation for having fun reading this year is to get into, join, or start a book club. So I'm in a book club. It started this last year with 3 of my friends. We were planning on just kind of doing whatever and ended up accidentally reading like exclusively dense sci-fi fantasy with sapphic main characters. An example is A Memory Called Empire by Katie Martine. I'll show it to you right here. She is gorgeous. She is beautiful. I love this book so much. It is dense, it is intense. You can see I annotated quite a lot in this book. This is the kind of book that I don't know that I would have read without a book club because I had the motivation to get in and like to read it. This was just me and some friends, okay? We just picked up this book. We were like, we are interested in these themes of colonialism and assimilation and language and culture. Fabulous. Let's do it. We like sci-fi. I also think that there are a lot of other ways that you can connect with people though. I'm actually hoping to either start or join another book club this year, so you can stay tuned to hear how that goes for me. But these are the things that I'm considering quite a lot. The first is, what is my goal with this book club? Is it about trying to diversify my reading? Do we have goals and accountability that we set together? Is it about just like hanging out with friends and having a fun social space? So in that case, maybe we're reading some easier books or ones that I've had on my list for forever. So it's not a big stretch to like pick them up and read them. Is it something that's in person or is it online? Is it a really big book club or is it a really small one? Am I trying to meet new people or am I forming connections with people that I already know? These are all really valuable questions that I think we can ask ourselves. But for me, the primary joy of a book club is just getting to sit down and geek out about something together and to have some fun with people that you like and care about, whether you're getting to know them through this way or not. I always like to write discussion questions because I am an absolute dweeb with an English literature degree. So I wrote a bunch for A Memory Called Empire and we ran through them and got to talk about things. We also just go in a lot of really ridiculous directions all the time. And for me, some of the fun of reading is that community aspect where I am reading a book and I'm also at the same time texting my friend, like, let me know the second you get to page 225 so that I can freak out in your direction. There is that really exciting aspect to it, and it makes me feel really excited to pick up a new book, even if it's one like this one that is long, that's intense, that I was intimidated by. A Memory Called Empire is now one of my favorite books ever. So I think that extra motivation for me of being able to go through a book club with my friends made a massive, massive difference. I'm also thinking about making a video on how to start your own book club if y'all are interested, especially around like, how do I make friends around my hobbies as an adult? So let me know. It's something that I think about a lot too. The next thing you can do in 2023 to improve your reading is to gamify your reading. So for me, the way that I primarily do this is through what I call my TBR jar, my to be read jar. She's beautiful, she's wonderful. YouTube hand, I've always wanted to do this. This is an old candle jar that I repurposed, and now it houses slips of paper that contain a handful of recommendations from friends and also the titles of every single book that I own and have not read. So if it's in this apartment and I haven't read it, its name is in here. Additionally, I put some chores in here. I am the kind of person who will just avoid vacuuming for as long as I possibly can, and I cannot be doing that. So that's in here as well. I could reach in, pull out a slip. For example, here, let's pick one that's not a book. This one says meal prep 2 meals and pull again. So I get to pull that and go, okay, fine. It's so fun though to not know what you're gonna pull out of here. It's kind of nice to get to do a chore that's connected with something that I'm excited about, like my next read. There also are books in here that I haven't read for a reason, like Othello by William Shakespeare is in here. I would really like to read it. I almost never am like, oh my God, I am so in the mood to read Othello right now. especially now that I'm out of school. So I think that helps too. It gets me to diversify my reads in a way that I'm not only picking up short books, I'm not only picking up one particular genre, I'm not only picking up fast-paced books. That's fun for me. I like the diversity of it. I like the excitement. I like not knowing what comes next. If you are a mood reader, okay, or you're a very strict TBR reader, I'm in the middle, which is why this works so well for me, because I get that like excitement of not knowing what comes next, but I'm also generally willing to read whatever I pick up. You can do this in other ways too. I've also created like mini jars for particular events that I'm doing where I only put in like 5 books, all that I would be excited to read, and I get to decide what order I'll read them in. I've also done it not for what book I'm reading, so I get to pick that one on my own, but for the environment that I'm reading it in. So am I going to a coffee shop? Am I taking it to the beach or the park? Am I sitting at home? Am I making myself a hot chocolate? Also, if I'm not sure or I want to get a new book to read, I could pull or maybe randomize whether I'm going to the library and picking up a physical book, I'm going into my Libby app and picking a book, or an audiobook to go on a walk with. Maybe I'm going to my used bookstore near me. Maybe I'm driving a little further to the Goodwill by me that has a weirdly good book selection, like excellent, like this hardcover copy of In the Dream House I got at a Goodwill for $2 near me. Fantastic. It's so good. So there's a lot of different ways to gamify it. My brain loves a game. My brain loves randomizing things. My brain loves just like messing around in that way. And so if that's something that's helpful to you as well, I found that so useful to blast me through a bunch of what would otherwise be potentially challenging reads in 2022. Next up, this one's hit or miss for me and for a lot of people, I think, but tracking your reading. So I use Storygraph primarily. I'm technically on Goodreads, but only for like advanced reader copies of things. I like Storygraph way better. I think it's a prettier format. I like that it is not owned by Amazon, and I love the content warnings and the stats that it gives you. I wish you could comment on stuff. I want more of like a thriving community aspect to it, but I hope that's coming down the line eventually. I track my books on Storygraph. I sometimes rate them and I sometimes don't. I drastically just prefer using it to like share my thoughts than rank stuff, because I feel like I'm really inconsistent. Like if I'm in a really good mood and I finish a book that I thought was just fine, I might still give it 4 or 5 stars because I just had a good time reading it. So I'm not super trustworthy in that regard, but I do love sitting down with my thoughts after I finish a book and tracking them in that way. I love seeing how many I've read so far that year. I love the statistics that will let me actually think about like how many books by authors of color I've read, or how many books by queer authors that I've read, how many of each genre, things like that I find really useful and exciting. Some people also will make reading journals. This is something I've never been able to keep up with in my life. It's like a physical version of it where you're writing things down. People will make them like a bullet journal, like really pretty with their washi tape and their aesthetics and their colors and their drawings. I can't do that. That's not me. However, I know for some people that's like its own hobby in and of itself that's attached to this reading hobby that they love so much. And I can only imagine how cool it would be to look back on a reading journal like that in future years and be able to see the spread that I made when I read, I don't know, House of Leaves. That would be a very bleak spread. Or the particular like kinds of colors that I was using when I was talking about a book that I hated. I would be so curious about that. It's not something I can keep up with, so I don't pressure myself to try. But if you're naturally artistically inclined, or you're looking for a hobby like this, something to do with your hands, something to keep you offline, trust me, I know we all need more of those, then that could be a really great way to do it. And finally, I often use content creation as ways to track my reading as well. I'm on TikTok, like I mentioned, at Nick Does Words, and I like to do at least a short review of every book that I read, sometimes a longer one up to like 2 or 3 minutes. That's long for TikTok. And I also do my like monthly reading wrap-ups at the end of each month, my yearly one at the end of the year. Those are all ways for me to continue remaining engaged with the books that I'm reading. I recommend them in different contexts. I think about them in relation to one another. I think about where I was at each point in my life as I read these books, and having those to look back on for me is something that I find really cool and useful, and I like it so much. So I hope that can be part of what this YouTube channel does for me as well, giving me an opportunity to track just like where I'm at as a person and a human being, and also as a media consumer and person who like reacts with and critiques and engages with media. The next tip slides right out from the last one. This is sharing your thoughts, sharing your reviews. So like I said, I use Storygraph. I don't review in long form every single book I read, but I try to review the ones that really left an impact on me. You can do this on your Goodreads, you can do it on your own blog, but I think sharing your thoughts and your reading with other people, not only just in your little reading journal or whatever, is a really, really cool way to continue building that sense of community. And you can do this in really really unorthodox ways too. You don't have to just do it on your Goodreads account or whatever. You don't have to just do it on your BookTube account where you have your very specific structured review that looks like everybody else's. If it makes you happy, absolutely do that. But I think that there are these expectations we can place on ourselves of what sharing our thoughts about certain things has to look like, and I don't think that's fair on us or on the people around us. I have friends who use their Instagram stories to review books and make them the little like, oh god, I don't use Instagram anymore. So, you know, the saved stories at the top, they'll do that. I have friends who make Twitter threads and who will go through. I have friends who use Dreamwidth, the blogging platform, to do their media reviews of each month. All of those are really great ways to just like pause and think about what you're reading. For me, so much of reading as a hobby is about slowing down, which is funny because I think on BookTube and on a lot of bookish social media sites, there's this pressure to read faster all the time. Blast through books, get through them, read everything, read it the second it comes out. But for me, reading really is about taking a breath. And when I take a breath and think about what I thought of a book, when I take a breath and I share my thoughts in long form, especially through writing, that's when I get the opportunity to just pause and be in the moment and think about story. So I really love that, and it's a way for me that I have found a lot of satisfaction. There's a really funny TikTok that I saw that was talking about the sound is like, ooh, it's like a treat. I'm so bad at TikTok sounds. I think that's what it was. But it was the person talking about how as soon as they finish reading a book, they get to write up their whole review of it, and that's like the little treat at the end. And I think that's such a cool way of looking at it. So I would really recommend, if that seems like it would vibe with your brain, absolutely go in that direction. My fifth suggestion is to try out a readathon. So sitting down and blasting through books readathon style reminds me a lot of elementary school, which is for 90% of Americans the most prolific time of reading. I just made that statistic up completely. I have no idea if that's true. It's probably not. It felt like it for me though. When I was young, I was absolutely flying through books. If I tracked my reading, I think I'd be shocked at how many I got through when I was young. I have tried to bring some of that energy back into my own life. I saw on social media some people doing 24-hour readathons without sleeping. That's a lot. That's not my style personally. I like to sleep at night, personally. But I have done a 24-hour readathon that included an 8-hour sleep period, which was fantastic. I've done 8-hour readathons or 10-hour readathons. Those are my favorites. That's like most of the day you're sitting down, you're reading, you're dedicating time to it, but it's not totally upending your entire life, especially if you can Tetris your schedule in the right way. Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, there's something really joyful about getting to sit down and dedicate time and energy to a hobby that you love, especially a hobby that's not gonna like advance your career or make you a ton of money. Like, I just want to sit down and read and like spend some time with myself and spend some time with stories and escape a little or learn something or connect or like cry a little. Sometimes you need to like get into those feelings. Those are all such good reasons to sit and take some time out for this. And so I think being able to value reading has made a huge difference for me as something that doesn't have to have some ulterior motive. It doesn't have to make me smarter. It doesn't have to make me cooler or more interesting. I'm already very smart, cool, and interesting in every way. So regardless, you know what I mean. I think it's fun to be able to do something that I can do just because I enjoy it and put time and energy into it just because I think it's fun. Some quick readathon tips. Set yourself up with a lot of treats and books as options, especially once you finish the first book in a readathon. If I do 8 hours, I usually get through maybe 2 books, sometimes more if I'm reading quite short books. And I don't always want to read the 2 that I set out. Sometimes I read the first one and I want something completely different. I'm just in a mood. So have options, get yourself some snacks, have some plans for that. I like to change locations every now and again. I find that to be really nice and like refreshing. Maybe I read one book in a coffee shop and then I move to the library, or I go home and then I do something else and then I pop out, or I go on a 10-minute walk in between things. Just keeping it like, I don't know, fresh, light, fun, fabulous. And if you can do it with another person, that is so much more fun. It's not always accessible to people to be able to have another person next to you for 8 hours straight reading, and I totally get that. I have done readathons where I'm checking in with a friend virtually. We're both reading, we're talking about stuff, we're enjoying ourselves, and that's a lot of fun too, even if you're reading completely different books. I love that. So those are my tips, and I really hope that they're helpful. I have one last thing to say, which is not exactly a suggestion necessarily, it's just a note about mindset. You will likely hear me talk quite a lot on this channel about the idea that you cannot punish yourself into being a better person or feeling good. I'm a huge proponent of leading with gentleness for yourself, not just because I'm like a soft person, but also because I'm literally a therapist and I've spent a lot of time over the last year working with clients untangling some of these like really upsetting, challenging threads of negative self-talk that people get into because we spin ourselves in circles. The society and this culture really values this idea that if you're not being harsh on yourself, it's because you're not working hard enough or because you don't care or because you're lazy. And none of that is true. The science doesn't hold up. The psychology doesn't hold up. And especially with a hobby that's meant to be fun and where you're meant to be enjoying yourself and where you're hoping that it's going to add some value to your life. My sincere hope is that if you're setting a goal for reading this year, that it can be a qualitative goal or a quantitative goal that you're not going to get really caught up on. For me, my goal this year is really to be able to spend more time feeling immersed in the books that I'm reading and to focus on finding times to read where I am feeling connected, I am feeling excited, I am happy to be reading, and I'm not sitting there going, oh my god, I'm 3 books behind my goal. I did up my reading goal this year, but I upped it with the absolute intention that I probably am not going to hit it. I don't know if I'm going to read 75 books this year, and if I don't, that's okay. So my hope for you is that you can find exactly what you're looking for this year, that any of my tips helped. If you have any questions, if you want me to expand on any of them, feel free to leave a comment. Also feel free to like and subscribe. Oh my god, I've always wanted to say that, because there is a lot more coming on this channel through all of the topics I've discussed and more. So thank you so much for joining me today on my first video. I hope that you found something to take away and that you have a really, really beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you back soon.